So the FDCs won't let me be or let these be free, so let me see. They want to make me pay in GAC, so now I'm stuck with CC and tenacity. Welcome back to the class, everyone. Focus Datacrons aren't here quite yet, but we do have all the specifics on the ones that are coming. And since they're going to be so expensive and from a store that we don't really want to allocate a lot of resources to, we need to talk about which ones are best and which ones are not. So we will be looking at the actual ability themselves, but I kind of have the 4 different Datacrons that are structured right here for these focus Datacrons that will be available in the episode shipments on Tuesday. Now, the first one is going to heavily revolve around Boba Fett, Scion of Jango, as well as Fennec. There is a slight clause in there that doesn't apply to the entire Datacron and all the abilities, but to the last one that does seem pretty important, where you are only going to want to have the 2 in there at a time. So while you might be able to add in some other characters, maybe specifically ones that synergize well with target lock because of one of the things that the Datacron does, you're probably just going to be wanting to run the 2 of them the majority of the time. The next Datacron that we have coming up is going to be with Aphra. This is not the only team that you're going to want to use with it if you do go after it, but it is a good example because this is typically the primary composition that people are using to take out Jabba. It is worth noting that if you do have Chrysanthemum free for whatever reason, either you just don't have Jabba yet, or you found another way to use him without Chrysanthemum, he is going to slot in here extremely well. We'll go into details on that later, but he's going to fit in extremely well there. Next up is going to be the Phoenix Focus Datacron that is going to give us some Adrad Jinn survival type mechanics, meaning that nobody on the team can die until Kanan himself is dead, and the team is also going to be getting some defensive buffs through the actual stats, and then Kanan himself is going to be getting guard along with Hera, meaning he's going to be very difficult to kill, and on offense, the team is going to end up causing a lot of problems because the AI often isn't smart enough to go after the tankiest character, which is Kanan. And last and least is going to be the Karth Datacron that we're going to look at the abilities for, and it doesn't look great, and in addition to that, I don't think it's actually going to be stopping the 2 primary pretty budget counters that already exist. And even if they do hold there, I still think the 3 above are going to be better. So that is our overall ranking. If you want to turn the video off now, I guess you can, but getting to the actual abilities and some of the reinforcement as to why we're doing this in the first place. So here are the abilities, but again, I don't want to redo that entire video as all the math for it still pretty much stands. But just as a reminder, the Focus Datacrons are only going to be available in the episode shipments, and because episode shipments is one of the primary sources of Omicrons now, and I personally want to be buying as many of them as I possibly can from the store, if I'm getting all of the max episode currency and episode points, I'm only going to have 10,000 leftover currency a month, meaning I can only really get 1 Datacron. Now, if you have bought in the episode passes, you are going to probably have a lot more than this, and that's not a big issue. This video still might be useful for you as you'll know which order to get these in, or however you should prioritize them. But if you are free to play and you actually do have leftover currency, you're probably only going to be able to get 1, or at least just 1 this month, and maybe 1 the following month, assuming these don't change. We don't know a lot about on that yet. But going over them, number 1, and this was kind of already said, but I think the best focus Datacron that we're getting is Boba Fett, Scion of Jango. It does so many things that are, quite frankly, really, really reminiscent of Darth Bane. So if we pull up Darth Bane's kit and we look specifically at his Rule of 2 ability, we're going to see just a ton of clauses of things that you aren't allowed to do to Bane. You're not allowed to ability block him. You're not allowed to cooldown increase him. You're not allowed to apply healing me. You're not allowed to stun. You're not allowed to have turn enemy reduction. And then he gets all of these buffs. When we go and look at Scion of Jango's up-and-coming Focus Datacron, we see a very similar theme. So like I said at the beginning of the video, if it's just Scion of Jango and Fennec Shand is the only ally, and Lord Vader isn't on the opposing team, all allies have 75% health and offense, so that's just the 2 of them. Instant defeat immunity, immunity to ability block, daze, healing immunity, shock, stun, turn meter reduction, and ally attacks can't be evaded. So while the lists aren't exactly identical, it's very reminiscent of the fact that these two characters are just going to be extremely buffed. On top of that, Scion of Jango is also going to get 3 stacks of Beskar armor, which is going to make him way more durable than he currently is, because we won't be able to crit him, and he'll actually be coming in and hitting back, plus having some defense and health. There would be protection recovery from the Beskar if it weren't for the fact that the characters are actually getting grit, which is a good thing, because now not only are we immune to crit on Scion of Jango, not only are we immune to insta-defeat attacks on both of them, but we are now going to be immune to max health damage. So all of the kind of gimmicky ways to be able to get a character out, Scion of Jango, at least, and kind of Fennec, are just immune to them, meaning the only way to actually kill them will just be with straight up raw damage getting through them, which might not be super difficult, because right now how the Datacron is structured stat-wise is it's only really giving critical damage, critical chance, armor pen, and resistance penetration. So you don't have a lot of defense to chew through. The Beskar will be providing a little bit, but at the same time, they might be somewhat killable. That's probably good news for anyone who is going against this Cron, or against someone who has this Cron on offense, because one of the deadliest interactions in here that I found that's going to go nuts is if you cannot kill them within about 5 turns collectively, so 5 turns each for both Fennec and Scion of Jango. Fennec is going to get 10 stacks of Loyal Hand. When she gets 10 stacks of Loyal Hand, on a basic, she will be inflicting Death Mark, which can't be resisted. This is wildly great, because on the level 12 ability, she will be calling in a random bounty hunter ally, Boba Fett Scion of Jango, to assist whenever she uses a basic ability. Boba Fett Scion of Jango ignores taunt, but he also ignores protection with this Datacron. Boba Fett Scion of Jango, basic hits twice, meaning if you get to that point in the battle where you've taken so many turns and accumulated a Loyal Hand, Fennec uses her basic, applies Death Mark, Boba Fett comes in, ignores protection, hits twice, Death Mark is 50% health, you just killed them. They're dead. They can't come back because it's Death Mark, so they can't be revived. And pretty much, unless they're immune to max health damage, it's a death sentence every single time. So that's going to be really gnarly. Not to mention the fact that every single time one of the enemies dies through whoever's attacks, they're also going to be getting Bounty Hunter Resolve back, meaning even if you have worked on killing Boba Fett Scion of Jango down once, he is going to be coming back and back and back and back. So I think particularly in 3v3, this team probably doesn't beat everything, but it's going to beat an awful lot. Galactic Legends will still remain a challenge for the most part, just because they themselves are immune to max health damage, but I really wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 or 2 out there that just get completely cooked by this team, because as you all remember, I Don't Miss, Fennec Shan's ability here, is going to be able to apply a lot of armor shred, so even if we can't get them via Death Mark and max health % damage, we can at least eventually completely shred out their armor and then just take them down the old-fashioned way. So for me, it's a number 1. If you have Boba Fett Scion of Jango, really at any relic level, which by the way, these focus Datacrons do not require the traditional relic levels. I think you can use them starting at gear 5, which is insanely low. But if you have him available, you have a Zeta, you have him somewhat functional, kind of like I do here at relic 5, it's got to be the number 1. It does so many different things. Next up is going to be Aphra in kind of the number 2 position, and overall, I like what it does. It just doesn't seem to change a whole lot, other than the fact that Chrysanthemum is actually going to do everything that he wants to do, because anything that he would do under Hutt Cartel, where he's not only taunting, but he's regaining the taunt, he's going to get that under a Dr. Aphra team, assuming you have a normal Dr. Aphra team. Ignore Taunt to target a debuffed enemy is going to be really nice for BT1. That way you can snipe out Boosh. 000 is immune to Daze and Stun, always good. There's Protection Up, which is going to help. I think that was supposed to help curb thermal detonators, but you'll see in here that they are just going to be flat out immune to them as well. So it really isn't going to be that big of a deal versus Jabba. And then Dr. Aphra can't be targeted by enemies if they're dark side ally droids, and she revives all Scoundrel allies, which that's going to be in addition to the droid allies, when she uses dangerous tech. So overall, this is very much aimed to stop Jabba. I mean, the thermal detonators are a pretty clear call out to that. But at the same time, Aphra's win rates against Jabba right now are probably in the 70% range, depending on the team comp you take in. I do really like it, though, because Aphra not being able to be targeted while their droid allies alive is very nice, because that was really the one loss condition, is if the enemy team, they only get a few turns, but if every single time they go after Aphra and they kill her, and she can't revive any of her teammates, your team just goes down. I actually had it happen to me the last time I tried this counter, because they just went all in on Aphra. If she can't be targeted, that problem is solved, and even if they go after one of the crucial droids out there, it's not that big of a deal, or even a scoundrel, I guess, because when she goes to use dangerous tech, she will not now only revive the droids, but in addition to that, the dark side scoundrel allies as well. So definitely an upgrade for the Aphra team, but maybe not the most valuable, at least when you compare it with Boba Fett, Scion of Jango. Next up is going to be the Phoenix team, and the Phoenix team really didn't get all that many buffs. The main one that actually, it's a combination of two. The level 6 ability here that makes Kanan Jarrus immune to instant defeat abilities, and other Phoenix allies can't be defeated while Kanan is active. That's actually really huge. For those of you who use the team a lot, you will know that Rogue One, and I kind of mentioned this at the very beginning, they have this really nasty interaction where Jyn cannot be killed as long as Adrad cannot be killed as long as Jyn is around. And what this ends up doing is, because Jyn is typically a weaker character than Adrad, the AI will be targeting Jyn the entire time, and you just get this immortal tank. We're probably going to see a pretty similar interaction for the Phoenix team, where if they don't choose to go after Kanan because he's the tankiest, and they might, the AI isn't always 100% consistent in that way. But if they don't, your team is just going to have the luxury of not dying. Now, whether or not they can actually kill the enemy team is going to be another question. One of the things that does help with that is that Kanan Jarrus and Hera are going to get guard, so that does kind of curb out some of the miscellaneous damage that might hit him via an AoE or something like that. I still don't like putting Ezra in the team. I think that Chopper's cooldown reduction on his basic and Sabine's overall damage and stagger is going to be adding way more than him just dealing a little bit of true damage. There really isn't that much overlapping synergy, kind of like there was with the Boba Fett Scion of Jango team that we saw earlier. And last, and definitely least, is going to be the Old Republic / Zalbar one. All of these abilities are fine within themselves. The problem is, I don't think they stop this. I think this still happens, where right now, this was from this current season, we have Zalbar Omicron, you can see that down here, equipped, at least a relic squad, the actual squad that people are supposed to be using. Tuskens just come in and kind of mop the floor with them. One of the big issues is that Tuskens are immune to damage over time, and while the Zalbarcron was adding a lot of really cool features, fundamentally that's still what the Karth team wants to do, and when we go ahead and look at each of these abilities, none of these really inherently stop Tuskens. Like, coming back from a revive, okay, that's nice, then you die again, I guess. Possibly removing turn meter, it doesn't really matter, because what they rely on is stacking momentum, and then you get stunned and dotted and just die. They can reduce their cooldowns. That's nice, but they're also not going to be inflicting that many debuffs, because as we previously mentioned, the enemy team is going to be immune to them. They gain offense when a debuff on an enemy expires. That debuff probably isn't going to be there because the dots are an option. This ability actually might change it. I'm not entirely sure, but if anything has any possibility of bringing down Tuskens, it's going to be this. At the start of his turn, Zalbar gives taunt for one turn to all tank allies. That's Juhani. And as it currently stands with the Zalbar Omicron, whenever Juhani or another tank gains taunt, they lose it and gain 400% offense. That 400% offense has been very underwhelming because Juhani can only get it about once every 4 turns because she can only taunt on her special ability as of right now. If she's doing it every single time Zalbar takes a turn, damage-wise, she might actually get somewhere. And then in addition to that, if he's able to get his armor shred out, which he probably can, he's going to get it on all enemies, which is a big deal versus Tuskens because momentum gives defense. So armor shred on the entire team actually might get you somewhere. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's a defensive team that has 2 cheap counters that may or may not wipe it out. So again, if you get the episode pass and you're getting the currency to be able to get all 4, go for it. I'm sure it'll do something, but at the same time, I stand by my recommendation that really these should be prioritized in really the order that CG gave them to us. For what it's worth, the other counter out there that is actually doing pretty well against Karth, and I actually used a variation of this myself with Boss Glade, which is not ideal, is going to be Bounty Hunters. Bounty Hunters can get Contract if you have everything timed out with Aura Lead right at the beginning of the battle. You can annihilate Zalbar. He won't even come back, so it's not a big deal, even with the revive on the Kron. And then you can just kind of dismantle the team from there. They might not be able to take the amount of offensive output that's coming, but, well, I guess we'll see. At the end of the day, I think they're going to be last place because they don't have as many mechanics to abuse as the other 3 teams above us. So overall, that is going to be my recommendation. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until the next time, stay awesome.